Eddie the Eagle, which is the third feature from Dexter Fletcher, who everyone's contractually obliged to remind you, Spike and Press Gang, and he hosted Games Master for a series. And then
Babyface.
Suddenly, and then Babyface from Bugsy Malone, of course. And then he became this really interesting filmmaker with Wild Bill and then Sunshine on Leith, the Proclaimers movie. I've heard his work described quite patronisingly, I think, as having the common touch. I think a much better way of putting it is that he's kind of working in the British social realist tradition, but with this kind of, telling stories about real people and ordinary lives. But they have a kind of an optimism and an energy and an uplift to them. So it makes perfect sense that he would make the biopic of Eddie the Eagle, who was Eddie the Eagle Edwards, Britain's one and only Olympic ski jumper at the Calgary Winter Olympics in 1988, who went on to become a kind of a National Village character. I mean, he was eccentric. He wasn't a stereotypically hunky winter sports guy, and he wasn't even particularly good at ski jumping, although the film does slightly fudge. I mean, he was a very good skier. The film kind of makes him out to be not particularly good at that either. But the idea was that he wasn't able to get into the Olympic squad on the strength of his downhill skiing, so he moves left because getting to the Olympics is all that matters to him. And actually, he's not interested in fame and he's not interested in fortune, although as a result of his performance at the Olympics, both of those things came to him in later life. But he's inspired by something much closer to the original Olympic ideals. And here he is giving a press conference speech where he very rousingly explains that.
Thank you all for coming. I know there are plenty of athletes more deserving of publicity than me. And I would like to apologise if my silly antics have cast a shadow over their achievements. I also know that I was messing around a little bit after the 70-metre jump the other day. I was very excited. But I take jumping very seriously. In fact, I love it. Which is why I've decided to compete in the 90 metres.
What?
But as people much wiser than me say, competing in the Olympics doesn't mean anything if you sell yourself short. I didn't come here as a novelty act, and I will not be going home as one.
So you get the sense it's very kind of stirring underdog sports stuff. Eddie is played as a young man by Taron Egerton, who was the lead in Kingsman: The Secret Service. And, I remember when I was growing up, seeing Eddie the Eagle on TV quite a lot, and he had a lot of mannerisms. He had a kind of a jutting chin, clenchy teeth, and would be, the glasses that we're wearing just now, he would kind of fiddle with those. Now, what Taron Egerton has done is he's, I'm assuming, gone back and studied these tapes in some detail and has kind of replicated this very meticulous impersonation of Eddie the Eagle that I think is very well meant and very well observed, but actually ends up working against the film, because what you want with an underdog sports film, or what I want with an underdog sports film, is someone to just get behind, and not this kind of, you're not sort of looking down and thinking, oh, what a sweet little fellow, I hope he does well. You want to be right behind them, like in a film like Cool Runnings, which weirdly, another true story that sprung out of the 1988 Calgary Winter Olympics, and is kind of cheekily referenced in the script that there's this other weird underdog stories going on at the same time, at the same event. They're kind of capering around clownish characters, but ultimately you really want them to win, and it's not out of pity; it's out of a real investment in who they are and what they stand for. And I think this is something that Eddie the Eagle gets slightly amiss. At its worst, the performance to me had slight elements of the Ricky Gervais series Derek, where it is very much kind of like holding up this pitiable character for sympathy. And it's not like that all the way through, but I find it kind of slightly enervating. Where it works much better is you have Hugh Jackman playing Eddie's coach, who is, he's not a real person, he's a composite of Eddie's real life coaches and also some, underdog sports movie cliches. Bronson Peary, he was a one-time great downhill, a great ski jumper, but his career flatlined and he's disappointed his own coach, and he sees this chance to help this guy do well in the event himself as a chance for personal redemption. Now, what Hugh Jackman brings to the movie is this kind of movie star lightness and sense of fun that this mannered performance from Taron Egerton slightly suppresses elsewhere. There's a great scene where he's talking him through the experience of ski jumping as being like, I'm going to be euphemistic here, as being like spending quality time with Bo Derek.
Yes.
And he sort of walks him through the various emotions that one might experience while spending time with quality time with Bo Derek in a very kind of vivid and pantomime way. And it's just funny and it's silly and it's light and it's very entertaining. And I kind of wish that tone it had stuck with slightly better. So you have The film follows him to the training camp where he's practicing with Bronson, and then it follows him out to the Olympics where Bronson eventually catches up with him. And, you know, it's proudly in the underdog sports tradition where, the arc, the expected path of this story is kind of spelled out from the start. I think, it kind of taps on some interesting stuff. There's an implication that Eddie didn't make it into the Olympic squad partly because of his class background. He's from a working class background. Mm-hmm. And, Olympic sports is incredibly kind of, blazers and, big white smiles and all this kind of stuff. And he just doesn't fit that image.
Who better to get than Captain Darling to sneer down at?
Exactly. And they do that in a way that's interesting enough to make me wish they'd explored it a little more. But I think, it's not my favourite of Dexter Fletcher films. But it does make sense that he's made it. And I think when it really works, and the moments that it really works are actually the ski jumps themselves. They're incredibly well edited, exciting. You get the point of view barreling down the jump. You get the reaction shot. You get the crowd reaction shot, the wide shot of the majesty of the landscape, all cut very, very intuitively and fluidly. And it's a lot of fun. So when it's flying. But it just feels slightly too dependent on the standard sort of formula for underdog sports movies to really sort of grip me in the way that his other films have done.